I didn't want to laugh while I was reading that out. I couldn't help it. This is just too funny. You've probably...
So that was the video that finally broke me. Over on Black Belt Barrister, I had to just include a bit of laughing because I found the article so entertaining. And I thought, how rude of me not to share with you on this channel, Black Belt Secrets. So please do subscribe, because a surprising amount of people watch YouTube and don't subscribe to their creators. So please do that. That's the only thing I ask of you. But this was the BBC article talking about the new website of Meghan and Harry. It's received, let's say, not the best response that I've ever seen or read about to a new launch of a website. And if you're wondering why this page looks so blank, is I've disabled all the images because I don't want any copyright infringement claims. So there we go. But this was the video that finally broke me, because I found it so funny the way that this was worded. And I'm quite impressed that they actually published this article. So I thought I'd like to go through with you on this video. And just as a heads up, I also want to thank a company called Flexispot, who sent me a desk and a chair because they saw my back pain videos here on Black Belt Secrets, actually, which I've now unlisted, despite it having over 4 million views. I thought I'll unlist it because it's not really in line with everything else that I'm doing on this channel. So I've got a pre-recorded segment that I'll play a little bit later, if that's okay with you. But to this website, the BBC says it opens up with a feel-good message. The website opens up with a dark blue page, a colour that brand marketeers like to associate with trust and quality, not to mention royalty. You see, that's funny because they didn't really mention royalty. In fact, they didn't mention royalty at all, apart from the reference to titles and things like that. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Then a picture of the couple emerges, smiling and applauding. It's a feel-good message of positivity and togetherness. It looks like the picture from the closing ceremony of the Invictus Games, which I think it was. Although the guy seen behind Meghan's right shoulder seems to have been gently faded out on the new website version. And I'm not going to show you the image because I don't want any criticisms and complaints. You can go to the website and have a look at it yourself. Then it goes on to talk about the office of. There's an ex-presidential vibe about the new site, with the office of coat of arms, worthy ambitions, and the biographies looking back and former triumphs and awards. And this is the bit that really took me back when I was reading it. I'm still finding it funny now, and it's several days now. I think it's 5 days since I originally did this video. It's meant to say classy and simple, but it might also work for some upmarket aspirational chocolates. You can imagine a voiceover purring about a Sussex not just being for Christmas. And why Sussex.com? I suppose H&M was already taken. You see, that's also funny because Sussex.com, they replaced SussexRoyal.com. But this still links to SussexRoyal.com in the bottom right-hand side. Now, if you recall, they were told not to use that because they were not supposed to use the word royal, because they'd step back from royal duties, which brings me on to another point, which I'll come back to a bit later in this video. And that brings us on to royal links, or lack of them. There's no mention of any other royals in these biographies. Now, I find that a little bit strange in that it's all dressed up, on the one hand, to look very, well, royal, but doesn't refer to any of the royals in the biographies. And as this article says here, there's been some synthetic outrage on the trading of the royal connections, but the links to the rest of the royal clan are conspicuous here by their absence. Now, question, is that a deliberate attempt to use their titles for the promotion of business, but deliberately remove themselves from the fold of the royal family so they can't be accused of using those titles for business? Who knows? That's certainly what it appears to me. Prince Harry's profile mentions his military career, his charities, his memoir Spare, but nothing about being fifth in line to the throne. Again, a bit odd, using the title, but not the fact that he's fifth in line to the throne. This is Harry without a tie, or for that matter, royal ties, the BBC says. This, by the way, an excellent article by Sean Coughlin, royal correspondent for the BBC. I will link it so you can go and read it in full. And this is about them as individuals rather than corporate structure, etc. But pushing back the Archewell brand makes sense if they're going to be speaking publicly and personally on issues. Archewell was a difficult concept as a vehicle. Was it a charity or a media business? valid question. You see, with this website saying that it is, quote, shaping the future through business and philanthropy, then there isn't just a fine divide between them. It is a mush, really. It is really using those titles and who they are, as the website puts it, shaping the future through business and philanthropy. So they're distinctly merging charitable efforts with business efforts. Then it goes on to talk about Meghan as a feminist. Lifelong advocacy for women and girls remains a constant thread in humanitarian and business ventures. It's a clear piece of positioning and signals the type of projects that could be on the way. It's a CV that doesn't really mention her time in the royal family beyond marrying into it in 2018. Instead, it highlights her acting career and campaigning on social issues. And then once again, don't forget the titles. They might not be working royals, even if they sometimes seem to be a parallel royal court, but there is one place they clearly assert their family connections. Both Harry and Meghan's biographies use their children's titles, describing them as Prince Charlie and Princess Lilibet. Dress code casual, but don't forget the titles. Now, this brings me back to a point that I did talk about on Black Belt Barrister, talking about the use of prince and princess because of the surname. Of course, those without titles and without being referred to as HRH or prince, princess, etc., would use the surname Mountbatten Windsor. And now the response to, let's call it the backlash, or let's just call it the response to this website. There's been some positive and there's been some negative to this website, to be fair. And their response to that is that this is our name. This, as in Sussex, is our name. But that's not strictly true if they haven't adopted it formally, because Prince Harry doesn't technically have a surname, because as a prince, he wouldn't necessarily use Mountbatten Windsor. And to my knowledge and what I've read, hasn't signed any paperwork to that effect and so wouldn't be using it. And even on the birth certificate, his name doesn't include Mountbatten Windsor, although Prince Archie's name did include Mountbatten Windsor because he wasn't a prince at that stage. So all of that is a little bit confusing, but I've got a longer, more detailed video on that over on Black Belt Barrister. I'll link that if I remember to do so in the description below. But there is an interesting thing about Harry's involvement, or lack of, that I'll come back to in a minute. But first, let me just play this segment to you about Flexispot, because they were so kind to send me this desk and chair because they knew about my back pain. So please take the time to listen to this. They are genuinely very good desks, and I'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes. Many of you know I've suffered with back pain for many years because I had a fairly severe spinal injury many years ago. So Flexispot were kind enough to send me a standing desk and a chair. Now, I've not been paid to talk about these, but they did send me these because they know that I've suffered with back pain over the years. Flexispot's standing desks allow me to stand up while I'm doing some work. This is the Flexispot E7 Pro standing desk, which allows you to elevate it from a seated position to a standing position at the press of a button, all at a predetermined height set either for your seated position or the standing position. But most standing desks have a manual elevation system to raise the desk up, which, let's be honest, most of us are not going to bother with. If any of you work from home, you probably spend a great deal of time sitting down, and this probably contributes towards back pain, or at least it will eventually. So standing while you're working is a fantastic way of staying active and mobile. And comparing this directly with the desk from another manufacturer that was sitting in its place, this one is of far superior quality. The thickness of the top and the sturdiness of the legs is second to none. It also has a cable management system at the back to hide and disguise cables, and it has a very stylish magnetic cover to hide all of the gearing in the mechanism and the wiring that allows the table to go up and down electronically. The front control unit also has a USB power port on the side, and you can adjust and memorize the various heights for seated position and standing position to get the table exactly as you want it. But do also check out this ergonomic chair, which is also from Flexispot, which is the BS12 Pro. The links for that are also in the description below. And as you can expect, you can customize the seat, which will move forwards and backwards. You can lock the backrest in place so you can have it freely moving. And of course, you can lift the chair up and down. It's a fully ergonomic chair, which is extremely comfortable. And as someone that spends a lot of time sitting down to work, My honest opinion is that this is one of the better chairs that I've ever owned. So thank you to Flexispot for sending me this desk and this chair. Please do check out the links in the description below. I would not endorse them on this channel unless I would actively use them myself. In fact, as I said, this is not the only Flexispot desk I have. They've just noted that I've done videos on back pain before now and decided to send me one of these so I can tell you what I honestly think about it. If I didn't think it was any good, I certainly wouldn't talk to you about it. In fact, I've been asked to do many different videos by many different companies and I just won't talk about them. But do check out Flexispot. I do think they're fantastic. The links are in the description below. And thank you for allowing me the time to thank Flexispot for sending me this fantastic desk and chair. So the one burning issue that we come back to is whether or not Harry is coming back to the UK and taking on any more duties. Because in his interview in the United States, he hinted a couple of things. He said that he's considering or has considered American citizenship, but would also consider more royal duties whilst the king is receiving treatment and recovering. But as I read from The Independent, Buckingham Palace aide has reportedly said there is, quote, 0% chance that Prince Harry could return to a temporary role working for the royal family during his father's illness. There is no way back for the Duke of Sussex following a series of reported rows with his brother William, the Prince of Wales, and his father, King Charles, Palace's sources told the Sunday Telegraph. They said the only person that might be taking on any more role would be Prince William, but even that isn't on the cards at the moment. So rumours have it that Harry was looking for some additional temporary role to assist, which on the one hand is obviously very bold, but on the other, it was going to raise lots of questions, such as, does anybody really want or need him here? And what would that role be? And is it necessary? And what would the general public think about that, given, you know, the backlash with the memoirs and the Oprah interview and the general trashing of the royal family? That's going to raise lots of questions, I'd have thought. Now, I've said many times on this channel that I don't like or dislike him. I dislike the behaviour, I've said that a number of times now, but I still get criticism for my videos saying that I'm a Harry hater, which is not true, but I will raise these questions and I will discuss them because he's a public figure. It affects a lot of people. There's a public interest, and a lot of people are genuinely interested in what's going on and, dare I say humbly, my views on the situation. So my views on the situation are that there are going to be so many questions about his involvement or proposed involvement and what effect that might have on the general reputation of everybody else, that I think even if it were on the cards, they probably decline. So notwithstanding that The Independent already reports a palace aide to say there's 0% chance of him coming back, I think even if it were discussed, it's probably not likely to happen. So let me know what you think. Do you think there's any chance of him coming back? Would you prefer he didn't? Would you like to see a reconciliation? I think there's a lot to be said for families having a reconciliation and patching things up. Or is it too late for that? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching.